Would that be okay for your business? I'd make sure personally to train whoever comes in. But at its core, I would say it's not your client's business who you hire. It's their business that you do the job really well. I hope that helped.
Sorry, I don't understand.
So your client shouldn't worry about who you're hiring. You should worry about who you're hiring. If your client has a problem with it, I guess they should talk to you. But if I were in your shoes and you didn't feel good about an employee, I would let that employee go or move them.
Thank you. I made this question because the clients who buying the service, and sometimes I feel that the employee is not working so well, but my client feels okay with that job, but I'm not.
Right.
But he is paying.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a situation where I might talk with your client and just let them know that you might change who is working with them and see how they respond. Because it sounds like that person, even if they're working well with your client, is going to become a problem down the road. They're going to become a problem later. And so better to take care of it now if you can. But you will obviously need to talk to your client about it if they're working really closely with your employee.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Obrigada.
Mais algum?
Any more? Oh, there's a couple. Good. I always feel bad when there aren't any questions.
Heather, I would like to know where is the moment to admit you failed? I mean, there is situations when your company is not getting so much money, but it has much potential, okay? And you say, oh, my company is not getting money, but somewhere in the future, it will get lots of money. I'll get rich with it. But there is situations when this thinking works, and there is situations when the founder of the startup, the company, cannot just realize that it is not going to work at all. So where is the moment to admit you failed?
Yeah, that's actually a really hard question. If I had the answer exactly to it, I probably wouldn't have ever failed. In a nutshell, one, it goes back to that gut feeling. The question was, if people struggled with it, when do you acknowledge that you have a failure on your hands? Essentially, when do you give up? I would say that one, you've got to trust your gut. If it starts to feel really bad, just stop. We dragged out our startup about 3 months longer than we probably should have. Two, when you run out of money. Obviously, when you run out of money, your startup is done. If you haven't raised money yet, a great way to know that you're probably going to be a failure is go try to raise some money. If you talk to about 20 investors and all of them say no, you probably need to at least change your idea a little bit or your pitch. If after you've talked to about 20 people, no one is getting it, it's probably a failure. But yeah, I don't have a great answer to when exactly it's a failure. It's a bit of your gut, and you'll know better if you're just talking to a lot of people. A lot of time your career mentors, your professional mentors, are a really good guide to letting you know when it's a failure, because they're an outside eye that can look at your startup and be pretty objective with you as to, it's really not doing very well. You really need to wrap it up. But a great easy way to do it, as I said earlier, is to set those metrics and set those early goals and say, hey, if we don't have 1,000 people or 5 clients by January, we're done. And that gives you a really nice point to end it. And so that's something I do suggest a lot of founders do, is write yourself at the very start an end point and say, if we don't have 5 clients by January, we're going to shut it down. And that just helps you not drag out something that's taking too long. So that kind of answers.
Okay,
Sorry.
thanks.
Hi, I would like to know, in Brazil, I think we don't have a lot of investors that really agree that failure is a way to learn.
Yeah.
And what else can we do to teach and tell them that that failure is a part of the process, and sometimes you not have an epic fail, but you have a small one, and the client thinks that the client or the investor that doesn't trust you.
That's actually something that I've probably heard is the biggest difference between Silicon Valley and other countries, which is that our investors actually really like when you've had a failure. And I've heard that a lot of foreign investors do not approve of this. That's actually why I'm trying to bring FailCon here. And I think what a lot of founders can start to do to change your investors' minds is start organizing events like FailCon. Bring a bunch of really respected entrepreneurs from your community to the stage and ask them to share what failures and mistakes they've made. They obviously need to be really successful at that point, or they probably don't want to share them. But I have found that in my time in Paris so far, a lot of successful entrepreneurs are happy to take the stage and share the failures that they've had. And I think that getting investors to start literally coming to those events and hearing them will start to make a difference. I'm also trying to get a lot of the American investors to these foreign countries where I bring FailCon to talk about that attitude and why, as a fellow investor, they think it's important. But I think it does start from the ground up right here, with you guys being okay with failure, and with you guys being able to admit it, and that'll help change the investors' minds.
Oh, hi. My name is William, and like 6 months ago, I had a podcast with my mates through university. I'm like a university student, and I'm internship on a television. And like my podcast was really successful. Like my friends, like they helped me a lot, and I got a job because of my podcast. I was on MTV on a documentary because of that. But I saw my friends, they didn't get like what I got. We didn't get money, anything. But no, I got recognized and I got a job and everything. But then like my friends, like they didn't want to do anymore. And I kind of understood because like I was the leader and I got everything and they didn't get anything. And we stopped. So I think that was a failure for me because that was something that I really liked and was like for a year. And now I want to like found a company with the other friends, but then I'm scared like, oh yeah, we're gonna find a company, we're gonna make videos, try and make web hits and stuff. But like, do you think collaboration with friends and like founding a company, is it likely to be a failure in the future?
There are two opinions on that. There's a big investor in Silicon Valley named Manu Kumar, and he flat out says, never hire someone that you can't fire, which essentially means don't hire your friends, because you can't fire your friends. If your friends are not, pulling their weight, don't hire them, because you can never let them go. I would say in your personal case, if you are having misgivings about working with your friends, don't. Just don't do it. It won't work out. If you think those are purely personal, you could try again, but I would make sure that there could be things that you're doing differently, like making sure that when people are, like if you keep being invited to speak, maybe write the person back and say, hey, I'm busy, can you talk to my co-founder here? And then they can get in the limelight a little bit more and they can feel a little better about getting involved. But I do think that it's a little bit safer to find a co-founder who is just a co-founder and not your best friend and not your roommate. Because you need to be able to take that person aside and be comfortable saying, you're not pulling your weight, you're not doing the job that I'm expecting you to do, how can I help you? And again, you have to be careful with your wording that you're not just blaming them, but saying, what can I do to help? How can we help pull you up to be at the level that you're gonna need to be? But I personally am very careful about working with my friends.
Hi, Cass. My name is Esteban Soares. Thanks for your amazing speech.
Thanks.
I'm a bit curious here. You have seen a lot of mistakes around there. What's the most common mistake you have seen startups committing?
Most common mistake I have probably seen, I'm going to list two really quickly. One is not having a problem that you are solving. A lot of founders keep building these cute little apps, and games are fine. Gaming is huge, build a game. But if you're trying to build the next Facebook or the next Google, you better be filling a market need. You better be solving a problem and not just putting a little Band-Aid on something. Because I won't change search engines. I won't move from Google unless you really are doing something amazing. I won't leave Facebook unless you're really something different. So I see a lot of founders that aren't actually solving any problems. They're just making a fun little toy. And that's never going to really be big. Two, I also see founders, and this goes on my Get a Life card, getting so attached to their startup that they can never change it. A founder that I won't name this because it's going on right now, but a founder that I do consulting work for has flat out said to me, this is the only idea I will ever have in my life, and I know it is perfect, so I need to do it. This is wrong. If this is the only idea you are going to have, you should not be a founder. It's just not the job for you. So I see a lot of founders make that mistake, that they can never let go of their idea, and they can never let it grow into something different, which is a big thing that happens. Sometimes a company is not a failure, sometimes it just needs to change a little bit. So those are probably the two things I see most founders make. But make sure that your startup is solving a problem, not a Band-Aid. Yes.
Hello.
Hi.
I will talk in Portuguese, okay?
Is what?
I think I can translate, because if he talks
Yeah.
in Portuguese, you,
Oh, I
you
see.
will not
Yeah, that's
understand.
Eu e os meus amigos, nós trabalhamos numa startup e temos um produto. E por uma série de razões, nós percebemos que o produto não escala, não está escalando, ok? E você falou de Lean Startup, e um conceito muito forte é o de pivô, de mudar o produto. Então, o que você tem a dizer sobre esse momento de fazer o pivô, de mudar, como você disse agora, sobre de mudar a ideia, de não ainda perceber que você pode falhar e antes disso você tomar um rumo diferente, mudando a sua ideia?
I think what he meant for he and his friends, their friends, they have a company, a startup, and they have some product which is not growing so fast or not getting in mass production. And how do you perceive the exact moment, or when you say, okay, this is not a good product, or I have to do something on this product to grow?
Sure. Feel free to translate if you need to. One, as I said earlier, have mentors. Make sure the three of you have a mentor outside of your startup who is helping you establish those goals, those lines. I don't know like physical products very well, but make sure that you know the specific audience that you should be targeting. Your audience shouldn't be boys. Boys is not an audience, nor is women not an audience. Make sure you've got an audience that's like football playing men under the age of 40. That's an audience. And make sure you are talking with that audience. If you think you have an audience and it's not working, try shifting audiences. I would personally say try doing that 3 to 4 times, do an audience shift. If after 4 audiences you still aren't having a market fit, then I would say it's probably not, the product's not working out. But I'd start off by making sure you're doing a lot of user testing, bringing in people who aren't just your friends, and just having them work with the product, and just get their feedback and try and integrate their changes. And hopefully it helps. As I said, it's hard to say exactly when it's a failure, but hopefully a mentor and getting a really specific audience can help you figure that out.
Ok, thanks.
Yeah,
Oh.
or when you run out of money. That's another failure point.
Precisa... Não?
Não.
Entendeu? Alguém mais? Tinha mais um ali?
Hi.
Hi.
Great talk.
Thanks.
My question is, could you talk about a little bit more about this after failure? How do you keep the relationship with the people that you were involved with?
Sure.
I love the letter story. It was a great story. But even if you're not going to do any more business with those people, how do you keep the relationship that you got in the first place?
Sure. So some ways that I had my 2 co-founders, and we each stayed in touch in 2 different ways. With my CTO, he got a job at a large, not a large, but a pretty successful startup, Airbnb. I don't know if you have it down here, but he got a job as like their 12th employee. So he and I can stay in touch because I can work with him on Airbnb's things. My other founder started doing events in Boston, and so we stay in touch through that connection. The best way to do this is to stay engaged with whatever they do next, or help them find their next job. So my friend at Airbnb, I got him that job, among other things. He obviously had a lot of skills and was very talented, so he got that job himself. But I introduced him to Airbnb and said, you should probably talk to these people. So that was a great way to stay involved with what he was doing. Things like investors, send them ideas for new startups. If you have a friend who's doing a startup that you think your past investor would have been interested in, send your investor, just say, hey, a friend of mine's doing this startup, I think you'd really like it. That's the best way to do it, is just stay engaged with what they're doing, send them leads for ideas on what to do. If you have employees, try to find them jobs afterward, and that'll help you keep really good relations with all of them. And then of course, as you have new ideas, make sure you're sharing it with them, even if you don't necessarily want to work with them again, just to let them know what you're working on. Hopefully that helps.
Mais alguém? Opa.
Oh, hello. Here today, there was a lot of talk about working with collaborations and working in a more horizontal way. I would like to know, when working under those circumstances, how it is to take blame for possible failure of the network, and how to take credits for something you've done. You know, lots of talk about meritocracy, and how is it difficult to perceive your own failures, or blaming others, blaming yourself?
Sure.
How does it work?
I think what you do personally should be different than what you do publicly. Personally, in the meritocracy, in the horizontal way of working, I think you should recognize personally when you've actually done something skillful and allow yourself to have a moment of success. This is a great place where those outside mentors can help, where personal friends can help, because you can go to your outside friends and say, oh, I just did the best thing at work. I got us $10 million. It's incredible. And your friends reward you and you feel great. And then you can walk back into the office and say, great job, everybody. We just got $10 million. That was really incredible. In the same way with blame, I think that you should know in your head who you think is the weak link, who you want to keep an eye on, and keep an eye on them, and make sure the team is openly discussing this. But if you're working in this kind of horizontal, pointing blame never actually works at all. So just try to avoid ever having to point blame, and just be like, there's a problem, we need to fix it. Who cares who did something wrong? Just fix it. But on that note, I'm sorry to counter your whole conference. I actually don't think meritocracies work very well in startups. Another investor that I work with occasionally in Silicon Valley frequently says, there needs to be a decision maker. Now, a good decision maker makes the company feel like a meritocracy. It makes everyone feel like their ideas have equal weight, and that this CEO is going to listen to everybody's ideas and take them all into consideration. But in the end, there needs to be someone who can say no, and who everybody else respects and listens to. So personally, I think that's great. I'm really glad it's a big meritocracy and we're all friends. But once you've raised a bunch of money and you start having a bunch of clients, I think there needs to still be a bit of structure where one person is the blame taker, and hopefully is really good about putting credit where it's due. They don't just take credit, but they say, oh, great job, accounting team. Good job, sales team. Great job, this individual. So that's kind of my gut, is while you actually have a meritocracy, try not to ever have to point blame, but eventually recognize that I don't think your meritocracy is going to work forever. Eventually someone has to take the reins and be the boss. Any other
Cass,
questions?
I want to thank you so much. It was really great. Guys, please.
You should only applaud if you actually enjoy a talk.
Pessoal, muito obrigado. A presença da Cass aqui foi ótima. Your presence here was great. E amanhã tem mais Expo Y, a partir das 14 horas, todos convidados. Tchau, tchau.
Obrigada.